Kevin Nash has broken his silence, sharing a confession that Hulk Hogan once made to him in private, one that reveals just how complicated the man behind the legend really was. Hogan's story was never clean, never simple. For decades, his scandals stacked one after another until his public image nearly collapsed under the weight. His wife branded him a serial liar and a sex addict. Longtime peers refused to forgive him. Asked once if he would ever bury the hatchet with Hogan in WWE, Nash's blunt reply was, no. From racial tirades and betrayals within his own family, to the secrets Hogan kept hidden until his last breath, Nash has begun exposing truths that Hogan never wanted out. What follows is the unraveling of a career built on strength, charisma, and political power, but also on broken trust and self-destruction. When Hulk Hogan's life ended suddenly on July 24, 2025, at age 71, following cardiac arrest, the wrestling world was stunned. For millions of fans, the ultimate symbol of professional wrestling was gone. But for Kevin Nash, who had fought alongside Hogan for more than 20 years, the loss cut deeper. He knew the man behind the curtain. Not the superhero in red and yellow, not the black and white Hollywood Hogan, and not the tabloid caricature. He knew Terry Bollea, with all his brilliance, flaws, and demons. As stories of Hogan's scandals resurfaced, Nash's response was both raw and uncompromising. For everybody wanting to pile on Hogan, remember this: he's gone. Think about his kids. Think about his family. If you can't say something decent, shut the hell up. Those words carried weight because Nash had lived through the same chaos, witnessing Hogan's triumphs and self-inflicted tragedies firsthand. To understand Nash's defense, you need to understand the controversies that shook Hogan's empire to its core. These weren't small PR nightmares. They were events that tore down the very foundation of Hulkamania. The most devastating hit came in July 2015. A sex tape, filmed secretly in 2007 during Hogan's affair with Heather Clem, the wife of his friend Bubba the Love Sponge, was leaked. On that tape, Hogan used racial slurs when speaking about his daughter Brooke's relationships. At one point, he stated, "I am a racist," to a point. The fallout was immediate. WWE fired him, erased him from their website, pulled his Hall of Fame induction, and retailers like Target and Walmart pulled his merchandise overnight. What many forget is that the same tape also contained homophobic remarks, less publicized but just as damaging. Hogan was completely erased from WWE's commercial machine. In his own words, "I was at the lowest point of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I didn't know I was being recorded. I wanted to kill myself." Nash, who had shared locker rooms and hotel rooms with Hogan for more than 2 decades, insisted he never once heard him use racial slurs. To Nash, the leak was a hit job, designed to destroy a man who had already made enemies at every level of the industry. But the tape wasn't just a scandal, it was evidence in Hogan's infamous lawsuit against Gawker. In 2016, Hogan won $140 million in damages, later settled for $31 million, a case that bankrupted Gawker Media. Yet in a cruel irony, the same tape that won him millions was also the one that destroyed his reputation. At the same time, Hogan's personal life crumbled. His affair with Brooke's best friend, Christiane Plant, destroyed his marriage to Linda. Their divorce in 2009 was public, bitter, and left scars that lasted decades. Brooke herself wrote, and later deleted, a message about her father's betrayal: "When your best friend and your father betray you together, maybe you can forgive. But you never forget." The Hogan family drama spiraled further. In 2007, Nick Hogan's reckless driving accident left his passenger, John Graziano, with permanent brain damage. Nick served 8 months in jail, while the family faced lawsuits and public backlash. The Hulkster's once perfect image as America's family man was shattered. By 2023, Brooke had cut her father out of her life completely, removing herself from his will. She skipped his 3rd wedding to Sky Daily, never introduced him to her twin children, and remained estranged until his death. Linda Hogan later posted a tearful video, calling Hulk a liar and a sex addict, and admitting Brooke hadn't spoken to her in nearly 8 years. The scandals went back further still. In 1994, Hogan testified in Vince McMahon's steroid trial, admitting he had been using anabolic steroids since the late 1970s. He also betrayed Jesse Ventura's attempts to unionize wrestlers by tipping off McMahon, sparking a feud that lasted decades. Piece by piece, the real Hogan was exposed, and fans began questioning if the man they cheered had ever truly existed. When Hogan died in July 2025, all of this baggage resurfaced. To Nash, it wasn't about excusing Hogan's failures, it was about remembering that behind the scandals was still a father, a friend, and a broken man who never stopped trying to patch the pieces together. Nash posted a tribute that read, "I lost another brother. Icon doesn't even touch it. Rest in power, my friend. NWO for life and beyond." He then drove hours through a storm to attend Hogan's funeral, which was packed with wrestling legends: Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, Eric Bischoff, Jimmy Hart. But Brooke was not there. Her absence highlighted how fractured the Hogan family had become. Later, Brooke posted an emotional tribute online, saying their bond was spiritual and unbreakable, but admitted she had been left out of WWE's official tributes. The most heartbreaking revelation came after the funeral. A mutual friend told Nash that in his final days, Hogan had expressed worry, not about himself, but about Nash. Hogan's last request was simple: make sure Nash is saved. He's been through a lot. For Nash, that hit harder than any headline or scandal. But Hogan's story was not just one of scandal, it was also about the brutal price his body paid for wrestling. For Nash, who saw Hogan behind closed doors, the reality was horrifying. Hogan's famous finishing move, the leg drop, slowly destroyed his spine. Years of performing it night after night left his back mangled, full of twisted surgical metal. Hogan himself once admitted, "If I could go back, I'd never do the leg drop. 35 years of that ruined me." By the end, Hogan had undergone at least 25 surgeries in a decade, on his back, knees, hips, shoulders, eyes, and abdomen. He lost feeling in his legs after one procedure and needed a cane to walk. In May 2025, he underwent a dangerous neck surgery that left him unable to speak for weeks, though his camp denied it publicly. Nash knew the truth: Hogan was falling apart. The painkillers nearly killed him too. Prescribed fentanyl, Hogan once convulsed so violently that EMTs had to rescue him. "That was it, brother," he recalled later. "I was done." But he never really was. Financial pressures and handlers pushing for appearances kept him working long after his body was screaming for rest. Even in his final months, Hogan pushed himself to appear on WWE's debut Netflix show in January 2025. Fans booed, unaware of the courage it took just for him to step into the arena. By then, heart issues had surfaced, worsened by years of steroid use. It was a battle his body couldn't win. Hogan's end came not in a ring, but at home, his heart finally giving out after decades of punishment. Nash understood that the same drive that made Hogan immortal in wrestling was also what destroyed him. And yet, beyond the scandals and pain, there was the other side, the business genius. Nash recalled how Hogan's heel turn in 1996, joining the NWO, changed wrestling forever. It wasn't a complete reinvention. It was Hogan exposing the darker side of himself that had always been there. As Nash put it, the NWO would have worked with Sting. But it was Hulk that made it legendary. Working with Hogan wasn't easy. His contract gave him creative control, letting him veto storylines. Younger wrestlers saw it as selfish politics. Incidents like the infamous finger poke of doom in 1999 are still mocked today. But Nash also credits Hogan with elevating careers and negotiating contracts that forever changed wrestler pay. Hogan understood wrestling as both show and business. He could be manipulative, but he also knew how to sell tickets better than anyone. Nash summed it up: people lined up under the Hogan tree, waiting for golden apples to fall. That's who he was.